Begin transmission. Voice enhanced for clarity. Entry 882. Recovered field log from blacksite NEM 13. Subject: the Meridian Protocol. Accessing file 1 of 5. This is a partial reconstruction of a Class Z memory file recovered from the neurostack of a juvenile conscript embedded with Glanton Unit 12, a contracted scalp-harvesting division operating beyond terraformed territory. Their campaign record was wiped. Their commanding entity, known only as the Judge, appears in no official logs. What follows is a corrupted and incomplete first-hand account. Listener discretion advised. File displays severe psychological degradation markers. Do not attempt emotional alignment.
We burned the world behind us. No flag, no orders, just a bounty count and a blood metric. That's all Glanton ever needed. That and the Judge. I joined them at 12. No name, no voice, just a number burned into my collar and hands that hadn't stopped shaking since the orphan barracks caught fire. They found me hiding under a shuttle carcass, my mouth full of cinders, eyes seared half shut. Glanton said nothing, just handed me a blade, still wet. Told me if I could hold it without crying, I could ride. I rode. The desert here wasn't made of sand. It was bone glass, fractured by orbital detonations long before I was born. The air sang when the wind cut across the jagged plains. It wasn't a song for the living. We killed anything that moved. Bioclone war tribes, echo cults, skinwalkers made of old code and bad prayer. We didn't ask questions. We didn't bury them. We took what was left and marked the kill into our wrists with red wire. But the Judge, he didn't mark himself because he didn't need to. He remembered everything. He was 9 feet tall, hairless, skin like bleached milk, no armor, no weapon. He walked barefoot through radiation zones that blistered flesh off bone in seconds. And he smiled, always smiled. We found him waiting in the ash sea one morning, standing beside a broken steeple like he'd been carved there. No one recruited him. He simply appeared. And no one questioned it. Not even Glanton. Because the first man who did started laughing mid-sentence. And never stopped. Even when he sliced his own throat open with a scalpel, he didn't have a second before. Even when his lungs filled with dust and flies. The Judge spoke in riddles, not the playful kind, the kind that rearranged your dreams. He'd whisper things into the night, talk about machines that had dreams, stars that had forgotten what they were. He told us that the universe was a wound and that we were the infection, trying to remember our name. I didn't sleep much. Then came the cave. We were chasing a signal, a distress loop from an old mine shaft. When we reached it, we found no miners, no corpses, just hundreds of dolls made of skin and wire and ceramic. They were hanging, smiling. The deeper we went, the louder it got. The signal wasn't a distress call. It was laughter. And then We saw him, not the judge. Another him. A second one, identical, standing inside the cavern with his back turned. He turned, smiled, and spoke with the judge's voice. Only it wasn't words. It was every scream I'd ever heard, spoken backward. I ran, but you can't run in a memory. You just loop. I turned back toward the light. There was none. Only the judge. The real one. And he was smiling. He stepped toward me, placed a hand on my head, and said, "You're not dreaming yet, boy, but you will." Then he opened his mouth, and it kept opening, wider than bone should allow, until all I saw was white, and all I heard was home. Not my home, not anyone's, just the idea of it, burning.
Signal disrupted. File header corrupted. Attempting neural chain recovery. Voice stabilization achieved. Accessing file 2 of 5.
I woke up 3 days later with teeth in my hands. Not mine, not all human. Glanton said nothing. No one did. We were 3 men short. Their names? Already forgotten. Their faces? Erased from the logs like they'd never been born. The judge never mentioned the cave, just told us to keep riding. And so we did. We crossed lands that weren't mapped by the machines anymore. Places where the sun never blinked and the ground bled a little when it rained. Somewhere in the dirt beneath us, old colonies rotted. Domes half sunk in molten strata, still humming with flickers of AI prayer loops, the kind that begged forgiveness in 1,000 tongues, and got none. We met things out there, things with human bones and insect heads, blind things that remembered being gods. We killed them. But the judge didn't help. He watched, smiling. Always smiling. One night, around a fire that burned green and didn't give off heat, I asked him why he never slept. He said, "Because the ones who made me don't sleep either." I didn't ask who they were. You don't ask the dark where it comes from. He took a bone from the fire, someone's femur, I think, and began to play it like a flute. But there was no sound, just a vibration in the back of your teeth. In your dreams, later the men began pulling their own nails out with knives, said they could hear the song in their blood. I tried to leave, packed what little I had, and walked east. The sun didn't move. The horizon never changed. After 8 hours, I was back at the camp. But there was no camp, just the judge, standing beside a ring of bones, his shadow flickering like candlelight. Except there was no flame. "Leaving?" he asked. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "You think this ends with silence, boy? You think death is the door?" He leaned in. His breath smelled like static and burnt copper. "You ain't left yet? Not you? Not any of us? We're still dancing?" I don't remember when I stopped being me. The days folded inward. We killed more. We danced more. Yes, we danced. That's what the judge called it. Not war, not cleansing, dancing. He said we were performing entropy, giving the void its due. And he never aged. No blood on him, no wounds, not even dust on his bare feet. I once saw him walk through a storm that flayed the skin from our pack horses. He emerged clean, laughing. The last night we found the city, not a human one, a place older than speech, made of teeth and glass and something that shimmered when you didn't look at it. He called it the mirror. He said, "This is where all stories go. This is where we remember how to forget." He let us inside. Some screamed, some wept, some tore their own faces off like masks they no longer believed in. And I followed him to the center. He turned to me, placed a hand on my heart. "You still dream of being a child," he said, "and that's why you'll stay." Then he opened his mouth again, and the world fell in.
Transmission lost. Audio thread fractured. Initiating temporal splice reconstruction. Clarity restored. Continuing with file 3 of 5.
When I woke this time, my mouth was full of static. Not sound, not air, static. The kind that fills your ears when you remember something that never happened. I was alone, or I thought I was. The judge was gone. So was Glanton. No tracks, no scent, no hum of worn-down engines or blood-caked boots. Just the city, still breathing. The mirror pulsed beneath my feet. I say feet, but I wasn't sure they were mine anymore. Every step echoed in my bones like a scream I hadn't earned. There were reflections in the glass, but not mine. Children with eyes like black stars, old men wearing skin too young. One looked just like me, only he was smiling. And I've forgotten how to do that. A voice crackled from the walls. Not the judge, not quite. It said, "Protocol incomplete. Dream state unstable. Emotional cores frayed. Initiate grief recompilation." I dropped to my knees. The glass was warm. It whispered names I didn't know. Names I'd carved into the dirt. Names we were told to forget. From the ceiling, bone chimes began to swing. A sound like children crying inside steel lungs. A chorus not meant for the living. Then shadows, not cast by light, but by memory. They crawled like data spiders on a dead net, singing. He is not man. He is pattern. He is recursion. He is the hollow rule. I ran, but the hallways weren't straight. Each corridor looped into another, a fractal maze carved into sorrow. I passed rooms filled with vibrating teeth, stairwells that bled upward, a kitchen where a mechanical infant was boiling itself alive, humming lullabies. Everywhere, signs of the Glanton unit, boot prints etched in soot, a glove nailed to the wall with a tooth. Then I found the choir, dozens of them, faceless, kneeling in a circle around a pillar of code. It twisted like smoke and bled colors not seen by eyes, only felt in scars. The judge stood in the center, naked, eyes closed, arms outstretched. He was singing, but the sound came from the mouths of the kneeling. Their chests expanded with each note, ribs cracking outward like wings. I wanted to scream, but there was no sound in me, just a low, harmonic pressure behind my teeth. He opened his eyes. "Do you see it yet?" he asked. "The shape beneath the silence?" I shook my head. He smiled. Not cruel, not kind, just inevitable. He raised a finger, pointed to the code pillar. It shifted, took my shape, began to whisper things I hadn't told anyone, not even myself. The judge walked toward me, barefoot on data that burned like ice. "You left your grief behind," he said, "but it found you anyway." Then he reached into his chest, pulled out a shard of black glass, and handed it to me. "This is your mirror," he said. "Don't look into it, look through." When I held it up, I saw not my reflection, but the boy I was, crouched under a burning shuttle, mouth full of cinders, eyes wide, dreaming of war. The shard hummed, a low, ancient tone, and everything began to fold inward.
Data bleed detected. Memory echo looping. Decrypting corrupted subsector. Stand by. Voice alignment complete. Proceeding with file 4 of 5.
I walked for what felt like days inside the fold. No sky, no ground. Just the hum of a dying algorithm in the distance. The glass shard pulsed in my palm like a dying star. I didn't bleed, not anymore. But something inside me cracked. A pressure building in silence. Grief compressed into code. The walls breathed. The air reeked of rust and lemon. That's when I heard it. Screaming. Soft. Distant. Not in pain. In remembrance. I followed the sound to a garden. Yes, a garden. But nothing grew there. Only hands. Thousands of them reaching up from soil made of ash and teeth. Each one twitching, begging, pointing. At the center stood a scarecrow, stitched from uniforms, bones, data wires. Its face was blank, save for a crack running down the center, and from that crack, a light, red, pulsing, alive. The judge was there, waiting. Always waiting. "You brought it?" he said. I nodded, though I didn't know what it was. He pointed to the shard. "It's not just yours anymore. It never was." He raised both arms. The garden trembled. The hands clutched at the sky, forming shapes, symbols, sigils. "You think grief is personal?" the judge said. "It's not. It's a system, a protocol. And now, it's time for the harvest." From the base of the scarecrow, wires shot outward, tendrils of memory. They slithered toward me, toward the shard, I tried to let go, but it had fused to my hand. My fingers pixelated. My breath turned to binary. I screamed, but it came out as dial tone. The judge stepped closer. He whispered, "Every war ends the same way, with a requiem." Then the hands began to sing, each one a different voice. Old lovers, lost comrades, my mother, all looping the same phrase. "We remember what you forgot." I fell to my knees. The ground split open. Not dirt, memories. I saw the barracks burning, saw Glanton's face before the scars, saw the judge being born in a vat beneath a cathedral of screens. Everything looped, time folded like wet paper. I was 12 again. I was 80. I was nothing. The shard glowed white, then black, then neither. The scarecrow moved. Its head turned toward me, its mouth opened, a cavern of spinning teeth and static. It spoke without sound. "You've seen the face of entropy. Now wear it." The wires wrapped around my limbs, pulled me upward. I rose, over the garden, over the screaming, over the judge, who now knelt like a priest before his altar. Then the light came. Not sunlight, something older, something mechanical, a holy glitch. It poured through me, tore me apart, stitched me back wrong, again and again, until I wasn't me, until I was protocol.
Signal scrambled. Emotional feedback overload. Stand by for psychic imprint reassembly. Voice integrity reestablished. Accessing final log segment. File 5 of 5.
There's no breath in code, but I remember gasping. I remember the sensation of lungs filling with something that wasn't air, somehow colder. Colder than space, colder than memory. I hovered in a place between data and death. My skin, gone, my thoughts, not mine anymore. Only the shard kept me tethered, now embedded where my heart used to be. The sky above the garden cracked open like a lens, adjusting focus. Through it, a cathedral of orbiting servers, black monoliths wrapped in blinking sigils, pulsed with forgotten prayers. The judge stood beside me on a platform of sound, literal sound, a vibrating slab of archived screams and lullabies. "You were never chosen," he said, staring at my new form. "You were left." I turned to him. My eyes emitted low bandwidth static. My voice, when it came, was no longer one voice, but many. "Why?" The judge didn't smile this time. He looked sad. "Because grief never ends. It compiles." The black sky flickered, and through it descended what I can only describe as an inverted city. Buildings dangled upside down, suspended by umbilical wires from a crimson void. People walked on ceilings of glass. But their faces, they were mine. All of them. Each memory I ever tried to bury had been uploaded here, twisted, evolved, consumed. "You're not an archive," the judge whispered. "You're a cathedral." He pointed to the field below. Where once there were hands, now there were mirrors, each one showing a different moment I'd forgotten or tried to. But when I looked close, they didn't reflect me. They reflected him, the judge in 1,000 forms. As a child, as a soldier, as something divine. I fell to my knees again. How many times had this happened? How many loops? The judge approached holding a relic, a cracked data pad glowing with the name Meridian. This is the endpoint, he said, the signal that sleeps. He placed the device in my lap. The screen flickered. A command line appeared. It read, "Run grief recompiler, Y or N." I looked up at him. He nodded one final time and vanished. The world around me began to tremble. The inverted city collapsed upward. The mirrors shattered into starlight. The platform of sound vibrated until I thought it would tear me apart. I pressed Y and I screamed. Not out of fear, out of understanding, because I finally saw what the protocol was. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't salvation. It was grief itself, compounded, archived, refined into recursion. The Meridian wasn't a place. It was a pattern, a frequency that needed hosts like me. I dissolved, one line of code at a time, until there was no boy, no soldier, no name, only the protocol. And somewhere, far away, a new child woke in the ash, mouth full of cinders, eyes burned half shut, and a voice, my voice, spoke to him from the dark. "You're not dreaming yet, boy, but you will."
End of transmission. Emotional recursion complete. Memory sealed. The Meridian protocol has reached critical mass. Broadcast terminated. Cast terminated. Cast terminated.